Hello, Kalimera. Milao Pisilnika. But the presentation today is going to be in English. My name is Apollo Gerolymbos, and yeah, I'm here to talk about data science and what it means to me through my experience for the future of fire and rescue services. First off, this is a tricky subject, and a lot of the stuff we're covering here today and tomorrow is quite complex. And there is this whole syndrome which I've felt many times, and I'm sure many of you have too, which is imposter syndrome. You know, I'm presenting something complex, data science. We're going to hear about fire behavior and many other subjects. Don't get trapped in this imposter syndrome. I've felt this many times. You know, what I know and what others know is overlapping. We are essentially a part of a knowledge network. This is the purpose of why I'm here today. It's to discuss my experience and to tell you my story. So, I started my career, let's say, in this whole industry in 2007. I met Kimon Pandelidis. This is me and him. In fact, this is just outside this hotel, 16 years ago. And then for me, volunteering was, fire service was about volunteering. It was about giving back to my local community. I went off and studied in the UK, business, psychology, leadership. I worked in finance and market research. And it was only till 2014 when I discovered that London Fire Brigade have open positions for, let's say, data analysts in the fire service. I knew nothing about the inside workings of the fire service. My role was always just attending incidents with my friends. So I started in London Fire Brigade. I was promoted 2017 to currently I work as sort of the head of data for London Fire Brigade. And I've also had a sort of relationship with the National Fire Chiefs Council over the last few years, acting as sort of the data lead for the UK. And some secondments specifically after Grenfell Tower in the building safety team and the digital and data program. So a little bit about my background, just so you know who is this guy presenting here. I'm also partnering with Birkbeck Business Economics Informatics University until 2025. So we'll see. Hopefully that continues. Some of the themes we're going to talk about today include this concept of marginal gains. I've tried to put some Greek on some slides as well, so you can sort of read it as we go. I want to explore a little bit, what is data science? Why am I here talking to you about data science? I thought this is something that, Netflix does or Amazon. What matters, seconds or outcomes, and talk a bit about utilization of our resources. And just trying to link everything together by giving you some examples from inside the fire service and some examples from other industries outside the fire service, and try and maybe predict what's coming in terms of data science in the fire service. So this is sort of the underlying theme here. Everything in life has the ability to improve. It can improve by big steps, or you can make small improvements. But the most successful person, arguably, most successful company, arguably, is very key message up there, that everything has the ability to improve, starting with ourselves. So what is improvement, though? So from a data perspective, you always start with the actual question itself. So someone comes to you and says, I want you to improve my fire service, or well, okay, let's define improvement. So here's a bicycle. It's a very old, heavy bicycle, but it was used to make world records. This is a new bicycle. It's much lighter, much stiffer, much faster, and it is also used to make world records. So we define improvement many times as the technological advancement, the engineering advancement. And this is very true in the fire service as well. In London Fire Brigade has a very rich history going back, hundreds of years. We've obviously improved a lot our fire engines. We don't need horses anymore. We've also improved a lot our systems. We don't need people pushing pins into boards. We have, complex, advanced IT systems. So these types of improvements are very obvious. But once you've already reached this position, the question that concerns me most is how do you make future performance gains? So where do those come from? Because the engineering has reached the peak, basically. Of course, there are systems, you'll see them outside, virtual reality, augmented reality. So there are improvements still to be had. But in my view, there's gains or performance gains that will be identified through the use of data and data science. So to continue with the cycling analogy, this is Dave, or Sir Dave. He's the director of British Cycling. And he used this concept of marginal gains. If you improve everything by 1%, the end result is going to be like exponentially or very, very highly different to where you started from. So, you think, well, cycling, what is this about? Well, they improved the quality of their cyclists' sleep by 1% by getting better pillows. They reduced sickness in their teams by educating people on how to properly wash their hands. They even painted the inside of their trucks white so that they were able to identify dust more easily. And of course, things like shaving your legs to get those aerodynamic gains. So this concept of marginal gains is really at the core of why data science is important in the fire service. And this is why. This is the why. Because marginal gains have the ability to compound over time and build on each other. So if you are 1% better every day for a year, you end up, if you start at 1, you end up at 37, 40. But if you're 1% worse every day, the decline is very obvious. So, if there's one message I want to put out, it's let's try and be 1% better, and it will grow and build over time. And this, in my view, is exactly why data science and analytics is important. It has the ability to unlock these gains that the fire service needs to sustain itself in an uncertain future. And why do I say that? Because I've seen the fire service in the UK, at least, change a lot. We had we have terrorist attacks, we have complex, large-scale incidents, multi-agency response, many incidents across the world as well, and looking at even in Greece, things like with the environmental catastrophes and forest fires and so on. We need to understand where we are and where we're going. So what is data science? I'm getting to it. Many times it's this. You hate the computer you're working on. You want to smash it. Nothing's working. But I thought I'd just show you this because it is truth sometimes. Back to the point. Data science is a triangle, and many people say. There's many definitions of this. This is my one. It's a combination of programming, computer science, coding skills. It's necessary to have sort of the maths and statistics background and be able to sort of visualize data and present it to audiences. It's a bit of mapping, so GIS systems or geographic information systems. But most importantly, in my view, domain experience. So, you can be a programmer and have a maths background, but if you don't understand the context and what you're actually analyzing, it's not as useful as if you have this this sort of experience. So yes, anyone here, if you're interested in learning how to code and you want to do a degree in statistics, you would be the perfect data scientist. So there you go. In a little bit more detail, before diving into examples, it is a multi-step process. And apologies if you can't see the slides at the back. We understand the question. You get asked questions. We need to define the objectives, clarify what work we are going to be doing. And then as you move through, collecting your data, making sure your data is good quality, preparing it, formatting it, making sure it's sampled, and then moving through to sort of the analysis, modeling, building your model, assessing it, making sure the results are valid. So, if not, go back and repeat the process. And finally, often the most important part, being able to communicate the results, make a story, make recommendations, and be able to present it to an audience and visualize it. Now, I'm up on this stage sounding like I know what I'm talking about. This is not new. This is not new. We've been analyzing data for public benefit for centuries. On the left here, I have an example from when there was a cholera outbreak in London, hundreds of years ago. They used maps, data science, essentially, data visualization to identify where the source of the cholera outbreak was from. We talk a lot about demographic data these days. Here's a map from London showing poverty. The use of, data for public good, I say, is not new. The difference is it's digital now. We have very capabilities of analyzing huge data sets very, very quickly. A few examples I'm going to just chuck quickly on screen. We have speed limit data, poverty data. We have data on trees and tree cover and ground deformation. And you might say, well, great, but as climate's changing, these are useful. We get many building collapses and things. That data might be useful. And there's hundreds more examples of data sets available in every country that can help you kind of build a picture of what's going on. What's even more confusing, though, is the tools that we have at our disposal for analyzing these data sets. There are thousands of them. And I guess I don't understand 99% of these. But the few that I use are the ones that I've selected. So the way that I built my team in London is that I want people to be as technology agnostic as possible. So I wouldn't recommend any service to go to one supplier. I would recommend first steps are getting a bit of insight into what you want to achieve, and then finding the tools that you need to achieve your goals. So it's starting by looking at the outcomes. And this is very important because, I'm going to just read this. We are drowning in information, but we're starving for wisdom. And the world will be run by people who are able to put the right information together at the right time, think critically about it, very important, and make choices wisely. And we'll revisit this quote just at the end of the presentation there. But, a typical question we might get asked, for example, is, my fire service needs more money. How can we get more money? Well, if you want more money, you need to prove that you're busy. So how do you prove that you're busy? Well, we attend 100,000 incidents, 200,000 incidents. If you're a national fire service, we attend 1 million incidents a year. Wow, it sounds like you're very busy. What were those incidents, though? How long did they take? This is the simple answer. The complicated answer needs more deep dive. We need to think about citizen outcomes, what this actually means for people, how the utilization of resources is happening, how busy are the actual resources you have, how much time you spend doing training, prevention, inspections, and then think about the complexity of incidents. We all know that no two incidents are alike, right? So why do we say we went to 100,000 incidents? We all know that a bin fire is very different to, a multi-story involved building. So why do we say we went to 2 fires? They're very different. So think about demographics. Think about the economic and social cost of an incident, not just what it means for the service, but what it means for the wider world, the wider society. And environmental outcomes. Fire water is very, very dirty. Where does it go? What happens after it flows down the drain? And our customer satisfaction, our staff welfare, mental health, and also the political impact. But some people would put it at the top. For the purpose of today, though, I'm just going to focus on two, the top two, because in my view, they're the ones we've got the most interesting case studies on. You know, everything here we could spend days talking about, but we just focus on citizen outcomes first. And in order to do this, I just need a little bit of participation from you, so I do apologize. Just put your hand up if you think seconds matter for swimming race. So we count seconds, right? Swimming race, it matters. Agreed? Put your hand up if you think seconds matter for airport delays. Maybe you count seconds. Maybe you count hours or minutes. Who knows? And just finally there, what about fire service attendances? Put your hand up if you think seconds count. It's unanimous. And you know, I agree to some extent, but most fires, injuries, and fatalities occur when there is a 10-minute delay in calling the fire brigade. More than 10-minute delay. So, and if you account for the 5 minutes as well, you're talking about 70, 80%, maybe 90% of fatal fires occur at fires where there was a greater than 5-minute delay in calling the fire service. So when it comes to outcomes for society, just by looking at that data, spending money on improving early detection and improving early warning and calling the fire brigade is a lot more cost efficient than driving faster and reduces risk as well. So if you want to reduce these fatalities and injuries in fires, you want to be informing your residents that the best thing they can do is call the fire brigade as soon as possible, because spending money on this is a lot more cost efficient than that. And it shows again in the data. You know, we do targeted prevention in London. We visit the highest risk homes. We visit people who have the highest likelihood of having a fire. And we've done this since around the year sort of 2000 there, where you can see obviously there's some other regulations that keep people safe. But you know, the trend in incidents is declining. And that is essentially what we're there to do. Just secondly now, on the utilization of resources. So again, we use data to understand the busiest times. We use data to understand, let's say, you know, which months have the highest incident rates, and you know what the busiest time of day is, and also the, you know, when the most unavailable fire engines are due to sort of shift changes. We also have the ability to analyze this data on a daily basis to find out, let's say, what the busiest days are, and that's in terms of, you know, incidents, time spent, resource utilization, so the whole sort of long list of things that we use. And even by minute, we are able to do this. So we are able to see a specific incident, at what point an operational decision was made that impacted availability. And you can see in red here the fire engines that are essentially tied up at an incident. You're able to see unavailable fire engines due to a shift change, and they are off the run essentially. And then whatever is left is your availability. That's what's left to tackle anything else that might come up. And if we put all of this together, we are able to understand real-time availability by using calculations that take into account the risk of an incident occurring, the predicted attendance time due to, let's say, road speeds and traffic, and whatever residual availability there is means a fire engine is available and it's not doing something else. And then we're able to create these live maps that our control officers use to do what's called a standby move, essentially. So moving a fire engine from one station to another to help make the whole map green again, which is what we want. But we also use data in other ways. We use it to do quite day-to-day jobs, like service all of the fire hydrants in London. They all have statuses. They're all in the database. Fire stations visit hydrants. They fix them. They get updated. And of course, the favorite slide of all, we use it to track the workload of our employees. Now, dogs, maybe not employees, but we have fire dogs. They go out with fire investigation. People need to know what they do and when they do it, and so on and so forth. So these are all nice internal examples. Just trying to tie in some external examples now to where I see the sort of data space in the fire industry going. You think about in football, clubs like Liverpool, Manchester City are essentially watching all their players in real time and taking decisions in real time based on the location of their players. In museums, 5G, Wi-Fi data, it's all being used to track where people move around an internal building. So where people are will allow the museum to decide where they should put the gift shop or an interesting exhibition. And even in slightly more illegal scenarios, all of this data can be used to track, let's say, when the raid on the US Capitol happened, where people were. So all of this data is being used, and the same technology can allow firefighters to be tracked within buildings. And this is being used, this is being developed by NASA to be able to track exact locations to very, very, very accurate levels within closed spaces. We're not there yet, but we do some spatial work. We track the routes that fire engines took to incidents. We can then essentially evaluate whether the right decision was made, or if someone, let's say, were to say, my house was on fire and you were late, so I'm going to take you to court. We are able to present evidence of exactly where the truck was and what it was doing. And also we can do some academic work, which allows us to evaluate the station locations, basically, and theorize about where they're going to be in the future. Now, there's a lot of great data out there. Google Maps, you all know. Waze, some of you know. This sort of live data being crowdsourced from people out in the world is going to be very valuable, and it will allow us, sort of to update future systems, I suppose. Even Uber publish open public systems where you can see, based on all the Uber trips that have happened, how long it takes for cars to go from A to B. And you can then use that and say, validate the data that you've got. So it's all used in that sort of validation stage, let's say, which is great. And there's many other data sets. This is air quality. Obviously, at big junctions and main roads, you see reduced air quality, and out in the fields, it's a lot cleaner. Now, this varies by time of day, so you can also evaluate, where high-risk areas might be. Now, we spoke about Netflix. This is the sort of stuff that I see in the world and inspires me to try and bring it into the fire service in some way. So Netflix have the ability to promote or suggest movies to you based on what you've seen in the past. But not just that, they'll change the cover picture based on if you prefer movies with Uma Thurman or movies with John Travolta. They will show you a different cover image. So if Netflix have the ability to do this, and this is why they're becoming a successful business, we should too. So here's an example that we've tried to do with restaurant fires. So, we get quite a lot of restaurant fires in London. They're generally down to poor maintenance of the cooking extraction systems, You get lots of buildup of fat and grease, and often the fire might originate in the kitchen, but it spreads very quickly through the building, and you can end up with a roof fire, for example. Now, there's correlations between kitchen fires and this food hygiene rating that we have in London. So if you want to go and have dinner, I recommend you choose a restaurant with a 4 or a 5. Otherwise, you might not be sure what you're getting. But what we see with this is that restaurants with a low rating are not more at risk of having a fire. They are more at risk of having a serious fire. So if a fire develops, a restaurant with a low rating will have a higher chance of becoming a serious incident. And that's because of a lot of the kitchen things. Now, you might say, well, okay, a restaurant burned down and you visited and saw that it had a low rating. Great. Well, in the UK, this data is publicly available. So that means you can now target every single other restaurant that has a low rating and try and improve their safety, educate them, and prevent incidents like this happening. So this is the prediction and prevention element, let's say. Same with residential fires. So in residential buildings, there's a lot of data. Every time you buy, sell, or rent a property, and you have to do an energy performance certificate in the UK. And this is a lot of data about your property. It's the energy performance, the construction, the windows, the roof, the insulation. It records a lot of data. And what we saw is that when we did an analysis at a building level, is that the energy performance data is the best predictor of fire risk in a domestic building. It's better than demographics. It's better than tenancy, property type, if it's been used for commercial use. But more importantly, it's a lot better predictor than building height. Because after Grenfell, everyone thought, oh, we live in a high building, a tall building. We must be at more risk of fire. But these are sort of challenges that we face and myths that we have to sort of work with and try and evolve them into truths over time. So, targeting visits based on demographics is what we do now. Using the energy performance certificate to sort of help the targeting become better is what we're moving to in the future. So, what next? Well, something really important for me when talking about all of this commercial, Netflix and Amazon and this, that, is data ethics. So data ethics is a branch of just normal ethics, being decent human being, but it applies specifically to the way in which you use algorithms and coding and all the rest of it. And, just looking at Google Trends here, you see the interest in AI kind of, everyone wants to know what the artificial intelligence is thinking, but no one wants to do it ethically. And that for me is a challenge, and it's being a public service and a service that is funded and being paid for by the public is something that we need to do really well. What next? The systems are going to go parabolically complicated and insane in the next years. 5G, building information models, augmented reality, it will come very fast, and it will mean a lot more data, and it will mean, sort of amazing systems. And if they are put in place, a whole world of firefighting that we haven't yet explored. But it presents a lot of challenges. The volume and the detail about what we have is going to increase parabolically. And this is, kind of a data scientist sort of dream scenario, to have more data to play with. But at the same time, data is only as good as what you put in. So poor data equals poor outcomes. The information we have access to about residents and risks within a population are increasing. the demographic data that we have, that can be farmed from civilization, really, and will allow the fire services to operate more efficiently, more successfully, target people who are at risk of having a fire, and promote safe messaging within a population. So our role really is to connect this balance between, being connected, being disconnected, and not forgetting about people who are disconnected in society as well. So, revisiting this quote, specifically tailored, let's say, for the fire service. It's my belief, and I see this happening in the way that the government is asking the fire service to operate in the UK, is that, the fire service will be run by data literate officers who are able to put the right information at the right time, think critically about it, and make choices wisely. Because the way we're going means that your decisions will be scrutinized. You make operational decision on the fire ground, and they'll bring it up in a public inquiry and go through every stage of your thinking. So having data to back up your decisions is really important. And we've seen this time and time again. And I just think, it's better to be safe. The role of emergency services, used to just be about chucking water at fires. It's expanded, at least in my experience. We're there to understand how an environment lives and breathes, and to keep people safe, and respond when every other measure we've put in place fails, because we are that last sort of defense when something goes wrong. And just a final point before I end. We are all responsible for this decision-making process into the future. So it's really on us to decide where the fire service goes in the future. My path took me, to sort of my volunteer team across the road, to Kimon and all the other colleagues in the room, ended up through LFB and whatnot, avoided death a few times, and now I'm here, right now. And where will we go in the future? What is the path we're going to take? Is it carry on doing what we know best? Is it to try and stretch and push the boundaries a bit and experiment, and learn from each other and network and keep this knowledge network alive and keep this knowledge network going? So yeah, I can only finish by saying it was a great pleasure to have the opportunity to speak here today. And yeah, I just welcome any questions if you have them. Aha. Ina.
Apollon, thank you for the very interesting presentation. This is one of the reasons that I am here today. I want to ask you what sets of data and results are open to public. For example, a civilian can see the time response in an incident in a website. How open are you in giving the results of your data to public? And if public must demand this data, or are the scientists, in order to analyze other factors, must demand this data from the fire service, or this data are open to the public? Because in Greece, one of the major problems is that we don't have open public data for these matters. Thank you.
I am probably the biggest supporter of public open data. Most of the successes we've had with data in London Fire Brigade and the National Fire Chiefs Council have been as a result of publishing open data. We share data on our website. London Fire Brigade publish every incident they've gone to, every fire engine movement, mobilization. It's 1.8 million records. It's all public. And what does this mean? This doesn't just mean that you do it to tick the box that you've published open data. What it means is that you end up getting people interested in how you work. We have partnerships with universities. We have students doing their master's degrees with us. We have random civilians who just want to see what happened yesterday. It's all, you know, they can use it for whatever purpose they want, essentially. We don't publish everything we have. You know, we don't publish the name and address of someone who, you know, set fire to their girlfriend's car or something. You know, we publish what is acceptable to publish under the sort of open data legislation. But, you know, a lot of the things I showed today have been work we've done in partnership with people who came to us because of the open data we published. And actually, when you kind of realize that the fire service belongs to people, then you give the data back to them. You know, no matter what they do with it, they're not going to change your day-to-day operations, but they might come up with a really interesting idea. They might come up with a new way for you, for example, to target, or you know, you can even do competitions with it. I mean, the list goes on and on. We actually work really closely with the Open Data Institute, ODI, in the UK. They advise us as well on things like data ethics. So in terms of what we publish, when we publish it, and what people are using it for, yeah, 100%. I would suggest publishing everything, but it's not always possible.
About being connected and disconnected, how do you reflect back to the fire service to keep a connection and inclusivity with the people behind the data, being the firefighters, to create your platform to implement what you learn out of the data? And how do you build that bridge and that barrier? Is there anything on that topic?
We go to stations. We talk with the end users. You know, we don't sit in the headquarters building reports and giving them to people. We engage the end users in what we're giving. You know, what is being built for them. So, you know, like the report about hydrants or whatever it is. Say, what do you need to do your job? What information do you need to go and do your job? And how do you want it displayed for you in a way that's easy for you? And then we try and build to match what is useful for firefighters. Because at the end of the day, the firefighters are the people who are entering the data into the system. And if they don't know what is going on with that data, then the data quality is going to suffer. So the more engaged you get people in the process of, the more interested you get people in the whole process, the more likely they are to say, actually, do you know what? When I come back at 3 a.m. from that car fire, I want to record accurately what the information is because I know what it's being used for later. So yeah, I mean, data quality is something you can tackle with systems, but it's also something that needs a human perspective. So we really try to engage people. We even have a data engagement manager, you know, in London Fire Brigade. So we're lucky in that sense to have a big team. Resistance is something interesting, but at the end of the day, you know, you all have a smartphone in your pocket. Data science, AI, it's being used about you all the time, everywhere. The resistance will be just realizing that this is no different. And this is why I try to bring so many external examples, because, you know, it's no different to what is going on in your day-to-day life. When you swipe your loyalty card at, you know, Shell or Alpha Vita, it's data that is, you know, governing the way that the world works, really. And yes, it sounds a bit odd in the fire service, but it's something that we really need. So yeah, I think from the resistance point of view, just offering case studies like these, like your local ones, back to the stations and showing them what you're using it for is good. Time? Okay, cool. All right. All happy? Yeah? Please, Elias.
Actually, congratulations. I was amazed by all this data situation and data analysis. I'm very, it's really tickles my mind when I'm thinking about decision making, because you've actually showed us in your presentation what the control officers do when they want to make the exchange of the standby vehicles. What is the procedure of transforming data to information, and the most important thing, the decision making from the leadership or the command.
This one.
Yeah. And the commanding. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So in the control center, they have this tool. This is not just a picture. In real life, it's a software. So they can drag and drop fire engine, take it from here, put it there, and it will show them what the change will do. Now, obviously, it's not 100% data-driven decision, because they might know that this is a small incident and this is only going to last for 10 minutes. But if they know that this is a big incident and it might last for 6 hours, then they might say, okay, we move a fire engine now. So they have to use their professional experience as well as the data. So the two have to live together. And, you know, I mean, this is why the data science job is so interesting, because it has the domain experience of actually doing the job coupled with the data, and the two have to live together. So yes, I mean, decisions will be made just based on, you know, experience or guessing or very data driven
or instinct.
Or instinct, exactly. But actually, if you look at instinct's very interesting, because instinct is just experience. You know, there was research done by Sabrina Cohen-Hatton, who's the chief of Sussex, on instinct, and she showed neurologically that instinct is your experience getting confident and just bypassing the neural paths in your brain. So instinct is essentially experience in that sense. I hope I'm not misquoting her. But yes, instinct, experience, all of those are very important, and they have to continue, but they're going to live with the data. This facilitates better decision making. This is not telling you what to do. And I'm quite clear on that. They have to go together. So,
Thank you.
Nikos. Sorry. One more.
Εγώ θα συνεχίσω την ερώτηση από αυτό που τελείωσε ο Ηλίας ουσιαστικά. Τα στατιστικά πολλές φορές μας βγάζουν αποτελέσματα. Πράγματι, δεν υπάρχει στατιστικό ή δεδομένα που δεν θα βγάλουν αποτέλεσμα. Το θέμα είναι στην πυρόσβεση αν τα δεδομένα τα οποία θα συλλέξουμε είναι πάντοτε πραγματικά. Και αν δηλαδή μας οδηγήσουν στο σωστό αποτέλεσμα ή μας παραπλανήσουν βάσει των δεδομένων που έχουμε. Και αυτό έχει να κάνει με τι? Ότι δεν έχουμε ουσιαστικά εργαλεία που να μπορούμε να έχουμε πιο καθαρά δεδομένα. Δηλαδή πιο καθαρά στοιχεία του να μας οδηγήσουν σε ένα σωστό συμπέρασμα.
Να απαντήσω στα ελληνικά.
Ναι.
Εντάξει. Αν είχα ελεύθερη άλλη μια ώρα θα το ξανά έκανα στα ελληνικά. Απλά επειδή το δουλεύω στα αγγλικά, δεν είναι οι ορολογίες, ας να πάνε. Εντάξει, γρήγορα. Κοίτα, κάνουμε partnerships, ας πούμε, με άλλες οργανώσεις στην Αγγλία. Οπότε, αν τα δεδομένα που χρησιμοποιούμε για την ανάλυση π.χ. ρίσκου σε μια κατοικημένη περιοχή έχουν operational value, δηλαδή το δείχνουμε στα tablet μέσα στα πυροσβεστικά, τότε πρέπει να είμαστε σίγουροι ότι αυτό το data, ας πούμε, είναι 100% OK. Δηλαδή, λέμε, ξέρω εγώ, ότι πας στην τάδε οδό, στον τάδε αριθμό, ξέρεις από το tablet ότι εκεί μέσα είναι κάποιος πανάπειρος, ξέρω εγώ, που έχει φιάλες οξυγόνου στο υπνοδωμάτιό του. Αυτό είναι data το οποίο το παίρνουμε από τα νοσοκομεία και από τις εταιρείες που κάνουν τη διανομή του οξυγόνου. Το βάζουμε μέσα στο σύστημα. Είμαστε guarantee, ας πούμε, ότι είναι σωστό data. Κάτι άλλο που θα χρησιμοποιήσουμε για ανάλυση μετά ή στο γραφείο, μπορεί εκεί να έχουμε περισσότερα challenges, ας πούμε, για την ποιότητα του data. Αλλά ναι, συμφωνώ απόλυτα ότι δεν μπορείς κάτι το οποίο να μείνεις 100% σίγουρος ότι είναι σωστό, να το δίνεις στα οχήματα και στους πυροσβέστες που πάνε σε συμβάντα. Αυτά δηλαδή, τα data που είναι μέσα στο πυροσβεστικό είναι πολύ πιο καλά συλλεγμένα και προσεγμένα από ότι αυτά ίσως που να χρησιμοποιείς για ανάλυση. Sorry, and just for the English colleagues, what I'm saying is data quality really matters, but it maybe matters more if it's an operational tool that you're using on the fire ground. So, you know, like for example, we tell our people about domestic oxygen that they have. If they go into an incident and the residence has oxygen cylinders inside, we get that data from the hospitals. So that data set is very accurate and it's an operational data. But yes, maybe some data we use for analysis later is less so. Thank you. Okay. Πιστεύω είμαστε εντάξει.
Ευχαριστώ.